Okay, so I thought I would just talk you through the installation options that I chose to install my USB charger on my Royal Enfield. The option I chose was to I didn't want my USB adapter or my USB charger to be powered all the time, even when the bike was off. So I chose to wire it in so that the charger would only come on when the bike was turned on. You can see here that only comes on when the bike is turned on. And if I just start the bike, you'll be able to see that the charging voltage will change. The option I chose was to make this bracket here, which was held in place by the bolts that the steering bar clamp uses to hold the USB charger. I had to make that out of 3mm aluminium plate, and then finished it and painted it with black enamel. You can see the charger itself is positioned really well for using my quad lock, and also for running the cables into a tank bag. The wiring for the charger is actually run down here. You can see it's off here. I put a sleeve on there just to keep the moisture out. That's actually heat shrink. I wasn't able to get hold of a rubber boot for the back of one of those. Wiring goes down here with the looms that come up on the steering column. One thing I wanted to just point out quickly was that when you're running the wiring up in here, you want to be careful. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a stop on the steering here. Now when you turn the steering, that stop rotates obviously, and it has the ability to trap wiring in here, so you've got to be careful. It's really hard to see because I've hidden the loom with the existing looms, but the looms come down here, down, and then up along here along the main strut, with the existing looms, and then they come out underneath the saddle, and I'll show you. Okay, so I mentioned earlier that I wanted the charger to come on only when the ignition was on. The tail light is actually activated by the ignition. So what I did was I used that tail light to activate a relay, which makes my charger only come on when the ignition is on. And in order to do that, I found the easiest place to interface to the existing wiring was via the tail light connector here underneath the pillion seat. I'll show you later me making the loom, but this is the loom that I made to connect between the existing plugs, so I didn't need to cut any existing wiring or damage the existing wiring in order to connect my relay, to give the signal for my relay to turn on and off with the ignition. That's these two white plugs and this loom covered in fabric protection here. Okay, what I'll do is I'll just quickly show you that the tail light only comes on with the ignition. I'm on my own, so you'll have to trust me. I'm not sure if this is the same for every bike in every country, if it's a requirement here in Australia only, but I'm sure most bikes nowadays come such that the tail light only comes on with the ignition. making it quite a good candidate for activating a control relay or something like that. This could be quite hard to see because the wiring I added is actually loomed with the existing wiring, but you can see that I put in my tail light connector, and the wiring goes down here following existing looms, also down with the looms in between the document holder, and then it comes down underneath here and then along here, and then some of the wiring goes down behind this panel, which I'll show you shortly, to where I located the control relay. I chose to locate the control relay down here because there was a lot of space, and it meant that I didn't need to interfere with the crowded area where the existing manufacturer's wiring was. Part of my wiring goes here and underneath the tank in order to get to the steering column. You can see that wiring here goes along here, and it follows the main strut of the bike all the way to the front with the existing looms. It's pretty crowded in here. You've got the ECU connector, and then you've got one of the battery supplies, the fuse holder, you've got the relays, etc. So fitting another relay in here probably wasn't practical. I've actually already swapped one relay in here, and that's the LED flasher. Okay, so we'll take off the side panel now, and I'll show you where I chose to install the relay. You actually only need to undo 3 bolts on this panel because the 4th bolt holds this finishing panel in place, and that bottom corner is held in by a push fitting. Okay, so the side panel's off, and you can see here is where I chose to install the relay to control. It's a 40 amp relay, and it's triggered by the tail light coming on, and it controls the power to the USB. Okay, so the wiring comes up here, behind here where the existing wiring is, and then follows the same route as the existing wiring, up underneath here, and then through to the positive terminal on the battery. I've left enough slack on that loom so that if the fuse blows, I can easily get in there to change the fuse. It's quite easy. You just basically pull this battery cable out the way, and then the fuse holder comes out, and I can get in there to change the loom. It's currently only got a 10 amp fuse in. The cabling is big enough for 15 amp fuse, but because I'm only using the USB charger at the moment on this, I've decided just to keep the fuse small. It's important to choose the fuse to protect the cable, because you don't want a cable fire occurring on your bike. Just one more thing to mention about this relay. It's actually attached to one of the standard rubber housing brackets, and the relay itself is sealed. It's hermetically sealed, so it's waterproof, and it's good for 40 amps. It's important to get a hermetically sealed relay because you don't want moisture and stuff affecting its performance and making it unreliable in the future. Okay, so that concludes how I set my bike up with the USB charger. All I have to do now is put it all back together, having pulled it apart just to show you guys. And if you have any questions, put them down in the comments. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks. I've been thinking about doing a video showing in detail how I did the install, how I made the connectors and the looms, and took the tank off and made the bracket, etc. I just think it's going to be a very long video, and so it probably needs to be a multi-part video if I was to do that. maybe you can let me know in the comments if that's something you're interested in. Otherwise I might just leave it as this basic overview video.